Alright, this is part 2 on our Bukkit Server series, and I'm going to be covering the startup mechanism of the server, and also all these files that have been created. And if you haven't seen the first video, I suggest you go back and watch that. It's on my channel. It's Start Your Own Bukkit Server. It's about 5 minutes long, so I suggest you watch that. And so, when we start our server for the first time, we get all this output. So what has happened here? For the first, we have this, which is 195 recipes and 27 achievements. That is not really something you need to worry about. Now, starting Minecraft server version, this is important because it is going to mark what is the version your server is running, so that is the only version that can actually access the server with a client. So 1.3.1, that's the most current version, and that's alright. Holding properties, and there you see server properties does not exist, so it's generating a new properties file, and default game type, and generating key pair. You don't need to worry about that. And it's going to say starting Minecraft server on, what is that, star, and the port is 24565, and that is the default port, and that means it's on localhost. So we're going to go into that in a different video where we're going to publicify the server. And now it says the Craft Bukkit version, which is Craft Bukkit version Bukkit 1.2.3. That's not actually correct. That is the latest recommended build, and you see behind that it says there is a lot of version information, and you see and there it implements the current API version of 1.3.1. So that's that. Now, failed to load operators list. All these warnings, they are not that important because they are being generated for the first time and they're not going to come up on the next time startup. And preparing level world. No, I don't really. Nope. Alright. And you see it says here, Bukkit Auto Updater. It appears that you're running a development build when you've specified in Bukkit YML that you prefer to run recommended builds. I will show you what you have to do with that later. And it says here, if you would like to be informed about new development build, it is recommended that you change preferred channel in your Bukkit YML to def. I'm going to do that later, but you might not want to do that. You might want to get the latest recommended build once it's out. With that said, blah blah. And now we're going into the world generation, which it prepared up here. And that's just generating the spawn, so you don't spawn in a chunk error. And for level 1, which is Nether, and for level 2, which is the end world. And done. Took 37 seconds. It's not going to take that long for all the next times, but the first startup might take a while. And then it says for help, type help or question mark, and that's it. These are just because my PC is a bit weak for that, and you know, it just has those warnings. So the server now accepts commands. We can try help. There we go. Gave us a bit of output, and that's for the console output. So let's get into these files. So what we have here is this plugins folder, this world folder, world nether, and world the end. Plugins is obviously where the plugins are going to go later, and we'll have a few videos about that, and maybe a few on an extra series. I'm thinking about that. And the worlds, it's obvious what they are for. It's just the world data. Just very simple. And banned IPs and banned players and ops and server and whitelist just help host player information. For example, banned players will be listed here and ops will be listed there. To show you that a bit better, I'm gonna the terminal. I'm gonna op a real melon, like that. Op. Alright, now in the ops file, you now see a real melon. And that's, you know, so you're an op now on the server if you wanted to join. And the other files here, we don't need to worry about this file. We're not going to use that. We're also not going to use this one. what we are going to use is this bucket for one thing and this properties file for multiple things. So first off, I'm going to open Bukkit, and I have that set to Notepad++. You can obviously use normal Notepad for that. But it has a warning here, which was preferred channel RB, and you want to keep it at that. But some of you might be more advanced. You might not be watching this video for learning like basic stuff, maybe for this, but advanced people can set this to def, so they will get the latest developer version and might be on the current build. If it's not out, I recommend a build. Like right now, there's no rec build for 1.3.1, so I need to use a def build, but it's not really that bad, so you can keep it there, but I don't want to suggest it. So I'm going to set this to false, so it's not going to always tell me that I'm running a def build, even though I have this on RB. Because I don't want to hear that all the time. It's very annoying and I don't really need it. The rest, you don't need to change any of that. Just save that, Control S. And the last file we're going into is this server file here. Server.properties, it's going to say over here, properties file. And there are multiple options here. So allow nether. Will it be a nether? So can you go into the nether? Yes, you can. True. True is in this case yes, and false is no. It's Boolean, and you will not need to know why that's that and not yes and no. It's just, translate it like that. And level name, which is the default world, and it's important that it is the folder for a default world. So if I were to type in world nether here, the default world will be our nether, which we obviously don't want. So world is supposed to be our default, and enable query, you don't need anything about that. Allow flight. This does not in any way concur with the creative mode flying, but if you have a flying hack or cheat, which are not allowed, you would have to set this to true, but I don't need that, so yeah, that's that. Server port, and where is it? Server IP, I'm going to go into that in a different video. And level type, it's not that important. Archon is not important. Level seed is not important at all. Max build high, you don't need to worry about that. That's the highest one by default. You can obviously change that if you need to, but I suggest you keep it at that. Spawn NPCs, so will it spawn villages and villagers? And that's set to true, so yeah, that's gonna spawn. And whitelist, you can always set this in game too by typing whitelist on or whitelist off. I'm gonna go into commands later on too. And spawn animals is on, snooper enabled. That is a setting new in 1.3.1, don't need to worry about that. Texture pack, if you want to load a texture pack for everyone. Online mode is set to true, so only players that are actually on Minecraft, so that bought the game, not the cracked players, can play on. Always leave that on so people don't try to come on with their hacked clients. And PvP, which is player versus player, and that means people can hit each other. Just leaving it at default, it's true. Now difficulty is 1 is normal, 0 is peaceful, 2 is medium, and 3 is hard, or 2 is hard. I'm not sure if there even is medium. I'm not quite sure right now. Game mode 0 is survival, and 1 will be creative. Max players, it's not that important since it's on your local PC, but I'm going to go into that in the IP video too. Spawn monsters, generate structures. The only thing we are really going to change right now is the mod D. If you save a server as a favorite, it's going to say the IP, and under that it's going to say the mod D. So I'm going to put here HowToBukkit awesome server. And I'm going to just save that, Control S. Close that back down, and that's it for the files and the output here. And yeah, we're going to go into in-game commands and what you can do in the in-game stuffs and how do you connect. in the next part, and after that we might go into some plugins and some more advanced configuration on permissions and that kind of stuff. So stay tuned.